Today on this podcast, I'm bringing an amazing conversation, and this is how tokenization wants to remove traditional ownership. I honestly want to say that tokenization will not remove traditional ownership, but is simply going to make it better. It is simply going to revolutionalize it. As a matter of fact, allow me to say that traditional ownership might become weaker and weaker and weaker every single year that tokenization is going to exist on this planet. And as far as this is concerned, tokenization is here to stay. It is not here to check in the market, to check who is going to be interested in the technology or not, but it is here to stay. It is the technology for the future. It is the new way of ownership. Just the way we had digital ownership. Digital ownership came and it took us by surprise. People started owning money that they are not touching. You guys have money on your Visa cards, and you actually do believe that you own that money. You do believe that you can go to a supermarket and shop without touching the money, and you transfer the money value digitally. So if digitalization took you by surprise and you accepted it until date, what makes you think that tokenization is not going to take you by surprise and actually stay? And people will believe it, and it will be a new way of ownership. Apparently, if you are just owning cash and you're moving around with cash, some people be like, no, don't give me cash. Don't give me cash. I'm not interested in cash. Can you please make me a deposit? Can you please transfer that money to my account? Because people feel holding money in hands is actually an old fashion. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me that ownership of property, physical ownership of property, might also be seen as something old-fashioned in future. And people would choose to own shares of properties globally. And that will be the new culture. That will be the new style of living. So I'm simply saying that tokenization is not actually here to remove traditional ownership of property, but it is here to revolutionize it. It is here to completely change how we understand ownership of property. And I think this is going to be really an amazing topic for discussion. When you look at traditional ownership of property and wealth, it is associated with a lot of limitations, especially when it comes to access, because they are expensive. First of all, there are few people who will engage in the ownership of a property, which makes it completely expensive. Few people can actually afford it. A whole apartment can be owned by one person, or two, or three. Okay, and also that would also result with a lot of controversies between both parties. If we own an apartment together or a hotel together and we are like three people, you will know wrangles that will arise. Decision making, who is bossy, who is going to hire this one, who is going to pay this one, who is more respected, who has this, who is bringing in visitors at the at the apartment or at the hotel. You always bring here so many visitors. They eat a lot of food, they drink a lot of coffee. The other time you came with your entire family, you come with friends here. This is not, a lot of wrangles that would arise. So it is really associated with a lot of limitations, especially when it comes to access, that 2 or 3 people or one person will need millions of dollars to own a single property, which tokenization removes. Because when you look at tokenization, it actually encourages fractions, that you can get your entire hotel and put its shares into fractions and let people buy shares, let people buy fractions of the building or of the infrastructure. So you find Daniel has bought 2%, Mr. Ryan Carter has bought okay, I will not give you 2%, has bought a 30% of the hotel. You find other people buying 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.001, according to how much investment they have and how many shares are remaining and how it is happening. So you'll find out that actually on a single building or a single hotel, there are so many people who have bought tokenized shares on it. And the ownership and percentage profit sharing goes to those people accordingly. And remember, the former owner is now holding these expensive tokens that people gave in to buy their shares, which is really amazing. So being fractional, it makes it cheaper to obtain. That if your goal was to actually have a passive income through owning some shares of a hotel, it is now going to be possible with tokenization, because you can use $20,000, you can use $100,000 or $50,000 or $3,000 to actually buy shares, be a part of the bigger dream, and actually excel. Look at how many people are really associated with traditional ownership. Look at how many intermediaries. You need lawyers to draft the agreements and this and that, to go and get this stamp and this and that. You need brokers to find this. It's a lot. It's a lot. You need notaries to actually ensure that your agreements and the documentations are actually accepted internationally. You need regulators to actually verify if this is that. A lot of intermediaries, making everything so hectic and frustrating at the same time. So tokenization says, no, we don't want that. We can actually make it faster on a blockchain. You can make it so quick on a blockchain. You can make it happen instantly on a blockchain. Yes, you can make it faster. You don't need to transfer your funds and the bank will have to wait for 7 working days to confirm the transaction. No. With blockchain, it is actually instant. This is what tokenization is doing. It is very instant. So now there are no more delays. There are no more these costs of paying lawyers and notaries and brokers and regulators. There are no papers here, because now everything is on a blockchain. Everything is online. Everything can be simply printed out and the documentations are ready. So tokenization is saying we can actually make this so fast. We can actually make it so reliable. Look at the illiquidity that is associated with traditional ownership, ladies and gentlemen. You know how hard it is to sell a property, let's say a house. I have a friend of mine in Mexico. She has been trying to sell her house since last year in 2025. Early 2000. As a matter of fact, December 2025. She has been trying to sell her house. 2025? No. 2024. December 2024. So the entire year of 2025, she has failed to sell her house. Right now, we are in March, almost April. I think by the time you listen to this, we should have been April. She hasn't sold her house. 1 year and a half. Her house has not yet been sold. The illiquidity, the time that a product can take to be sold, that a property can take to be sold, can kill the money. Because if there is a certain condition right now, it will not be the same condition 10 months to come. Markets will have changed. There are wars happening. There is instability is happening. There are crashes and bumps and dumps. So if you had to sell your house today at $100,000 and you wait for another 6 months or 1 year, it might be $80,000, losing $20,000. Because property, houses, hostels, apartments, buildings, home mansions, they can take some time to be sold. So tokenization says, no. Instead of you looking for a minister in your state, instead of you looking for those top rich people just in your city to buy your house or your property or your apartment, tokenization puts it at a global scale. They are putting your property everywhere to be recognized by everybody in the world. And not only targeting millionaires, but targeting people who own simple thousands of dollars, who can actually buy with 5,000, with 10,000, with 100,000, even if it is $5 million. 200 people will buy shares in your property. So you're no longer owning it. 200 people are now owning it. Same money you've got, same value. So they are putting property at a global scale with trusted resources, trusted means, and through regulators and infrastructures that are actually trusted and responsible for tokenization, which is really amazing. Look at how centralized traditional ownership of property can get. In one way or the other, you'll find out that actually some banks will control, actually not some, but banks control who to get the loan and who not to. You see? But tokenization says, no. We can make everything open to the world. We can make every detail transparent to the world. So there and then you can actually verify who owns this, the value, how many people are now holding the shares, and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about an industry that is estimated to be around 10 trillions by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying $20 trillion by 2030. There are other people who actually estimate that the tokenization industry could even be $16 trillion. And some who actually overestimate, they even think 30 to 50 trillions by 2030 is actually possible. I'm talking about 3 years remaining, 2027, 2028, 2029, 3 years. In just 3-4 years, it could raise from 27 billion. Yes, previous in my last episode, I actually told you that it is right now 26 billions. It could rise from $26 billion to $50 trillion or $30 trillion. And this is possible. So I'm working for a company called the Troptions Unity. Troptions at large. And this company is coming up with a tokenization platform. So what they did, they said, we want to make everything transparent. And they came up with a token called Troptions Unity on the Solana blockchain. They want transactions faster, reliable, trusted, open, scalable. That's why they chose Solana Network. They said, we want an institution that will actually lead in the tokenization of assets. And they were like, you know what? We now need PT Bat Bank in Indonesia. And they are working with PT Bat Bank to act as an institution, a financial institution, because it is a bank. It can regulate, it can list property assets that will be on for tokenization. PT Bank, PT Bat Bank in Indonesia, which is really amazing. And they are like, you know what, but we need the assets. And they are working with the Liquor Holdings in the United States to provide the assets, and then build digital to Africa, also trying to tokenize expensive stones and underground wealth assets from Africa, tokenizing them. It is really amazing. It's really amazing. And then they're like, so we now want quantum exchange to act as our, not to act, but to be the tokenization platform, where people can actually use Tunity token as a value, as the money, as the tokenizing value, as the tokenization value, as the tokenizing money, the money that will be used to get into these tokenized assets. So you want to buy shares on an apartment, you need Tunity to buy in. You want to buy shares of Troptions Incorporation as a company, you need Tunity to buy into the shares. You want to buy, there's this stone called, I'm forgetting, okay? You want to get into gold shares, you need Tunity. So Tunity is going to work as money for tokenization at quantum exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about 10 months to come, but in 1 or 2 or 3 months, this is going to be happening. And I'm very sure that Troptions Incorporation is right now building. I want to say hi to Brian Stone at Troptions, to Ryan Carter at Troptions, which other person at Troptions I'm in touch with, to Jordan Stone at Troptions. Thank you for the building. I know there are busy days there, you have to work with regulators, institutions, have these documents ready, this and that. And I think everything should be really fine in a few. And we need to have these tokenization platforms and values move around. We need to get into real business. We need to get into real money. This is Daniel Leinhardt, and you are listening to the CryptoInvestar Podcast. I want to say bye for now for this episode, and I think we should really be hanging out very soon.